Have you ever felt like you were losing yourself in someone else's story, as though their words pulled you into a world that was never quite real? Have you ever sensed that someone was too good at saying exactly what you needed to hear, leaving you hooked before you even knew what was happening? Sociopaths weave this kind of illusion with a chilling skill, and nowhere is that more dangerous than in their most intimate relationships. Beneath the charm, beneath the surface that looks so confident and poised, lies an emotional void that most people never see. It's easy to mistake their charisma for depth, their intensity for devotion, but the reality is much darker. Sociopaths don't connect the way most people do. Studies in forensic psychology and personality research suggest that sociopathy, now termed antisocial personality disorder, emerges from a tangled web of genetics, trauma, and environment. Neuroimaging studies show differences in areas like the amygdala, the part of the brain that processes empathy and fear. Many sociopaths grow up in unpredictable, sometimes violent worlds where trust never felt safe. Some inherit a genetic predisposition toward emotional coldness. Others adapt this behavior as a shield in chaotic, neglectful homes. The result is a psychological landscape where guilt is foreign and bonds feel transactional. Modern culture glorifies charm and self-interest in so many ways that these traits often go overlooked, especially when they wear the face of someone fascinating. But what happens when you let someone like this into your life? What happens when the one you love doesn't truly see you at all? This is where the dark reality begins to unfold. Sociopaths often make terrible partners because they view relationships as a game of control. To them, emotional intimacy is less about mutual understanding and more about gaining an edge. Picture someone who always knows the right words to say, someone who seems to anticipate your needs before you do. This feels thrilling at first. You might believe they're intuitive or deeply connected, but often they're studying you like a puzzle, assembling the pieces they need to gain your trust. They reflect your interests back to you, exaggerating their affection until you feel like you've finally been truly seen. And then, at the moment they have you most invested, they pivot. They might grow cold. They might vanish emotionally. They might subtly imply that you're too needy or too sensitive, training you to doubt your own instincts. Research in interpersonal dynamics shows that these manipulative cycles, what some call love bombing followed by devaluation, can leave partners desperate to return to the warm intensity of the early days. Sociopaths thrive on that power, and they rarely feel guilt about wielding it. To them, affection is leverage. Trust is just another tool. Have you ever wondered why someone can look you in the eye and lie without a flicker of discomfort? Sociopaths often lack the moral break most people have, that pang of conscience that tugs at you before you betray someone. Neuroimaging studies reveal that sociopaths show less activity in the brain areas responsible for empathy and guilt. They can promise you forever with absolute conviction and discard you the next day, as if nothing ever happened. To them, loyalty is not a bond, it's a convenience. This is why they so easily make terrible partners. They rarely feel the emotional weight that binds most of us to one another. That capacity to leave without remorse is something most people cannot truly comprehend until they experience it firsthand. By the time you realize what you were dealing with, they may already be on to someone new. And this is where things get even darker. Sociopaths often weaponize your own emotions against you. Because they lack an internal compass for compassion, they become adept at reading emotional signals and mimicking them back. But it's all surface. Underneath, they view these connections as tools for their own benefit. If you ever dare to challenge them, call out a lie, set a boundary, express hurt, they will twist the story so you feel guilty for your own pain. This is a carefully learned skill, often honed through years of trial and error. Studies on manipulative personalities reveal that sociopaths excel at gaslighting, rewriting the narrative until you begin to doubt your own perceptions. It's not simply that they don't care, it's that they never had the capacity to care in the way you do. Every heartfelt confession you offer, every secret you entrust to them, becomes raw material they can use to control you later. The most painful part is that they rarely need to raise their voice or make grand threats. The slow erosion of your sense of reality is usually more than enough. After all, why shatter someone who is already breaking themselves for you? And then there's the aftermath, long after you realize what they are. Even if you manage to cut ties, Sociopaths often leave an invisible trail of damage. Trust doesn't come easily after someone has learned to weaponize it. You may find yourself overanalyzing new partners, scanning for signs of hidden agendas, expecting betrayal where none exists. This is the lasting impact they leave, not just on your heart, but on your perception of every close connection. It's a quiet kind of trauma, one that often feels like you're mourning something that never truly was. That is what sociopaths steal most efficiently. Your belief in sincerity. Perhaps most terrifying of all, they rarely look back. So what can you do if you recognize this pattern? How do you reclaim the power they so easily took? The first step is naming the behavior for what it is. The more clearly you see the tactics, the less control they can exert over you. Trust your unease. Trust that tiny voice that whispered they weren't quite real. Break the habit of explaining away what doesn't feel right. Psychologists often recommend a simple but radical practice. Observe their actions, not their words. Words come cheap to a sociopath, but they rarely back them with consistent caring behavior. You cannot make someone feel empathy if they never learned how, and you cannot rebuild honesty on a foundation of lies. Let go of the idea that they could change if only they understood your pain. What looks like a misunderstanding to you is often indifference to them. The most powerful thing you can do is step outside their story entirely, to reclaim your sense of self and recognize that your capacity for feeling is a strength, not a weakness. In the end, sociopaths make terrible partners because they never truly choose you. They choose the version of you that suits their story until it doesn't anymore. They reflect your light back to you, never truly generating their own. And when the light fades, they vanish without a second thought. Trust your inner compass. Some connections are better left unexplored. Protect your energy. Stay curious. Subscribe for more from Beneath the Cortex.